What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 343 of AskGSM, here today for Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Before we go any further with today's episode, do want to mention this, that by the time this video goes up, which I realize sometimes is a bit later on, that usually is YouTube's fault, by the way. Like, I recorded last week's episode first thing Wednesday morning, and then YouTube literally took no less than like 5 hours to publish it. I don't know why. Sometimes it might be my Wi-Fi or YouTube itself. I don't know. But either way, that's not the point. By the time this video goes up, my exclusive interview with WWE NXT's own Damian Priest should be live on DailyDDT.com, so go ahead and check that out. We talk all about his Archer of Infamy nickname, what it means. Shout out to at E13A for sending in that question over Twitter. I was able to ask him about that yesterday. Damian Priest, that is. Idolizing The Undertaker, his favorite opponent so far in NXT, finally coming into his own after that awesome Finn Balor match back at TakeOver in Your House earlier this month. It was a great interview. I talked to him for about 15 minutes yesterday. Super cool dude. So check out the written version of that article, that interview, in article form right now on DailyDDT.com. As for hashtag AskGSM, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So speaking of which, I actually forgot to collect the questions from YouTube here today, so thankfully I remembered that as I was just saying that right now, or actually a few moments ago when I tried to record the intro for the first time and I messed up. So I went back, gathered the questions, and for some reason, as I've said in recent weeks, I have no idea why this is happening, but YouTube is not notifying me of new comments on my fucking videos, and it's really annoying. Like, I'll literally get comments on my videos from like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I'll be notified of that shit, but not shit from videos that I posted a week ago. Very annoying. But we do have 3 questions from last week's video. First, from Kadeem Gomez from YouTube. Their first question was, name 5 racially offensive gimmicks that you hated the most, and do you think the history of WWE and stereotype gimmicks need to be erased despite the ongoing protests? I mean, if it was a past gimmick, there's really no way of erasing it. I mean, if you're talking about like on the WWE Network or something, if it was that bad, then maybe. But, I mean, what's done is done. There's really no changing the past now. If there were any racially insensitive gimmicks going on right now, I would say yeah, absolutely. Like, that's probably not too smart. But it is 2020. I feel like a lot of promotions get the deal. They understand what the deal is, even well before everything started happening with the protests in regards to racist gimmicks. I'm sure there are still some out there, none that I really know of, but going off of like specifically WWE, in the last 20 to 30 years, there are a number of them, a lot of which I forgot about until I looked it up before I answered your question here. Including Crime Time is probably the first one that I go to just because I was around for that one back in 2008, 2009 when Crime Time were at their most prominent popularity-wise. Don't get me wrong, I love Crime Time. Chad Gaspard, rest in peace, just passed away. Love JTG. The gimmick was incredibly racist. It depicted 2 black guys to be these thugs stealing stuff that would absolutely never fly today. Nor would it, nor should it. I mean, again, they were a great team, very entertaining, but definitely if it happened today, they would be canceled on the spot. Not them specifically, it wasn't like their fault. WWE, rather, for giving them that gimmick. Akeem the African Dream from many, many years ago. Why they even did that, I have no idea. Didn't he feud with like Hulk Hogan or something at one point? Maybe over the top championship, over the WWE title. I don't remember exactly. I wasn't watching at that point, but I remember going back and watching old WWF pay-per-views and seeing Akeem the African Dream. Why? Kerwin White was another one when Chavo Guerrero paraded around as a fucking white caddy. Which made out, he wasn't the caddy, I'm sorry, he was like a golfer, and then Dolph Ziggler was his caddy. Incredibly racist gimmick. Even the theme song sounded racist. They were trying to paint him out to be like the stereotypical white guy, and first of all, the gimmick sucked. Second of all, thank God that it was done away with after Eddie Guerrero passed away. Chavo went back to being Chavo after that. But why they even thought it was a good idea in the first place, I have no idea. That gimmick absolutely sucked. JBL with the illegal aliens thing when he went to the Mexican border. I mean, obviously it wasn't real. I don't know if they were actually at the border. I doubt it, but maybe they were. Obviously the Mexican family that he, was going after, that he was running after, that wasn't real, but it was still incredibly racist. The Booker T Triple H angle from 2003, super racist when he was like, oh, you went to jail, and they were talking about how he can never be a top guy just because he's black. And they were doing that type of stuff by 2003. They were still doing that type of shit, unfortunately. I've seen people say Los Conquistadors. It was entertaining, but yeah, that would never fly today. Still very racist of Latinos, Latino Americans, Mexicans, whatever. Spanish. I think that was supposed to be like a Spanish gimmick, right? I don't know, but it was still racist. Even worse than that, though, and RJ's going to get a big pop out of this one because he had the t-shirt and everything, because as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid, you don't really know any better. But the fucking Mexicools. RJ, he tells me all the time, this is so bad. They had a t-shirt for the Mexicools, which was what? Super Crazy, Juventud Guerrera. I forgot who else was a part of it. Psychosis, I think, from back in like 05, 06 SmackDown. He had a t-shirt from the group that said, I'll mow your ass, or what did it say? I'll kick your ass while I mow your grass, or something incredibly stupid, dumb, or racist like that. So bad. So bad. And they've made a lot of like racist jokes over the years. Nothing in like the last 5 to 10 years from what I can remember. But like even as, recently as like 08, 09, I'm trying to think of like more recent examples. Yoshitatsu, they tried to pretend that he couldn't speak English. I mean, his English wasn't great, but they were like, konnichiwa, and like shit like that, like very racist. Tajiri, I think they kind of really know they did that too much with Tajiri. They definitely did with Funaki. The Kung Fu Naki gimmick would, again, never fly today. Entertaining for its time, but very racist as well. So, those obviously, again, aren't current gimmicks at all. These are all from years past, but those are all the ones that came to mind. And, if any of those happened today, whatever company, specifically WWE, because I think that's where all of them came from, if I kind of go back in my head now, they would be canceled on the spot, as people say. So, all gimmicks that were dumb. Some of them were more entertaining than others, but maybe for the wrong reasons. So, bad gimmicks there. No Laura from YouTube as well, they asked, do you see Anna Jay bringing the AEW Women's Championship one day, or winning the championship rather? And will Tessa Blanchard go to WWE, or do you see her going somewhere else? So first on Anna Jay, from what I've seen on her so far on Dark and Dynamite, she's good. She hasn't exactly blown me away. I think she's relatively young. The issue is that they built her up, they signed her. When I say built her up, they advertised her in-ring debut for Dynamite last week. Her first match, I believe, is a contracted performer for AEW to face Abaddon, who we didn't know her opponent would be Abaddon going in. But, they advertised her debut. They gave her the promo treatment. She didn't cut a promo, but she had a vignette before the match. And you're thinking, okay, they're going to start to build up new talent in the absence of Chris Statlander and Britt Baker, both of whom have since gotten injured, unfortunately. And then Abaddon wins. I'm sorry, but I think Abaddon sucks. I hate the gimmick. Her matches have not been entertaining. It's just way too distracting. And I think I've said this before, but people might argue, whoa, well, look, the Fiend's mask is supposed to be scary. What's the difference? Blah, blah, blah. It's not exactly just the makeup. I don't know. The whole thing just screams dumb to me. The Fiend isn't crawling on the floor. I mean, the Boogeyman was dumb too, but I don't know. I wasn't supposed to take the Boogeyman seriously, I don't think. I know he did beat JBL at WrestleMania one time. Or not JBL. It was, Booker T. That was a dumb gimmick too. But the whole Abaddon thing, I just think it's incredibly dumb. I think Anna Jay really should have won that match. Maybe she'll link up with the Dark Order, and maybe she'll win championship gold that way. Unless they really aggressively built her up, I don't see her winning the championship anytime soon. But hey, if she improves, if she finds a character, and she really kind of locks it in like Akira Shida has in the last couple of months, then maybe she will be. We'll see. As far as your second question is concerned for Tessa Blanchard, I think she might stay with Impact, to be honest with you. I know she's kind of done it all already. She is the current world champion, for God's sakes. She'll never win a world championship anywhere else. And listen, I love Tessa Blanchard, I really do. I don't think WWE or AEW would ever go that far to put their top title on a woman. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it was really cool when Impact did it a couple of months ago. but it was more a matter of the circumstance. It's not like she beat Michael Elgin to win the championship. She didn't beat Brian Cage, who she has beaten before, but that was, again, different circumstance. She beat Sami Callihan, who she had a long history with. They had good chemistry with each other. Sami Callihan is a smaller guy, more of a vulnerable champion. To me, it didn't really matter that she beat him. If she was to beat, a Cody or a Kenny Omega or someone who might be a bit more credible than a Sami Callihan, yeah, that's an issue. She ain't ever winning the WWE title. She ain't ever winning the AEW World Championship. So she might think to herself, okay, maybe I'll stay where I'm at and continue to have success at this level. But if I'm her, I'm thinking, okay, I may never be this popular again. I feel like her stock is at an all-time high. She's the current world champion. Granted, she has been off TV for a number of months now due to the whole quarantine thing, which sucks, but beyond that, before that, she had really been firing in all cylinders. She's feuded with a lot of Impact's top talent. I would move on. I do think she might stay, but I would have her move on, whether that be to AEW or WWE. If I had to take a guess, I would say she would go to AEW. Not that I think she'd be a bigger star there. I think she'd be a bigger star, honestly, in WWE. I think they would push her to the moon. AEW, yeah, it's one of those things where she could go there and be their top talent. Their women's division has improved, but it's not at the point where I feel like she would go there and they would just treat her like the star that she is. They've signed a couple of women like Chris Statlander so far, and she's very good. She hasn't really come across like a star so far. The whole alien thing, I'm not too hot on it. I don't mind it, but it's also not like a championship-worthy gimmick. Even though I did want her to beat Riho a couple of months ago for the championship, but that was a different story. That was a different story because Riho should not have been the champion, so just because she was never on TV and whatever else. But as far as Blanchard is concerned, I think she'd go to AEW just because her father is there. I would like to see her in WWE. I feel like WWE, even their women's division, is not the greatest. I mean, they have their fair share of issues too. But I feel like their women's division is in a better spot and in better shape than AEW's is. But if I had to take a guess, I would like to see her in WWE, but I feel like she might go to AEW because that's where her dad is, and she might feel like, oh, okay, it's not WWE, it's not as micromanaged. Maybe they'll push me as their top female, and they could. But I mean, Riho is their top female, and she was never on the show. She didn't really feel special, so who knows. From Joe M. from YouTube as well, he asked, is keeping Toni Storm on NXT UK a waste of her potential? I don't watch NXT UK, and I doubt that she does great things. I think you meant to say I don't doubt that she does great things on that show. But from the stuff I've seen of her, she seems to have everything someone needs to be a big babyface star for them. I know if they brought her up in the last year or so, there's a chance that she could have just been squashed by Charlotte or Nia, then relegated to the main event, but would it benefit her to be brought up to Raw as soon as she is legally allowed to in America? I would have her go to NXT first, personally. I don't think having her in NXT UK is a waste, but I feel like they were headed in that direction of putting her on NXT anyway before the whole quarantine thing happened. She was already appearing on NXT earlier this year, late last year, I think. She was at Survivor Series. She's been on NXT lately. The issue is that I think Kaylee Ray, injured her, and then we haven't seen her since, I don't think. I think she was going to come over to NXT. I think she was in the process of getting her, stuff in order to come over to NXT proper in the U.S. before everything happened. So I think they were already in the process of doing that. I would not bring her up immediately to Raw or SmackDown. Just because, Rhea, I was thinking, okay, maybe she'll go to Raw or SmackDown, but I'm glad she went to NXT first, because more people got to be exposed to her. Going from NXT UK straight to the main roster, I don't feel like is a good idea, unless they're like a made star, like a Tyler Bate or a Pete Dunne. That's a different story. Even Dunne and Ripley, like I said, both went to NXT first before they likely move on to the main roster at some point down the road. But as far as Toni Storm is concerned, I would bring her over to NXT. She could have some really fun matches with, let's see, who do they have there? Io Shirai. Io Shirai and Toni Storm, I think, was actually the finals of the 2018 Mae Young Classic. They had a match, I want to say earlier this year, that I think Io lost by DQ or something like that. But yeah, you can rekindle that rivalry. Her versus Dakota Kai would be fun. Her and Tegan Nox would be a lot of fun. Mia Yim, Candice LeRae. So I would bring her first personally over to NXT. I think she would get lost in the shuffle on Raw or SmackDown off the bat. I mean, listen, they just brought up Bianca Belair. She's not been on the show. She's not been on Raw in 2 months. Shayna Baszler got called up. She had a very good push off the, she had a very good, strong, aggressive push right off the bat. And now we haven't seen her in over a month and a half on Raw. She had that one submission match with Natalya that she won, and she hasn't been on the show since. So anyway, I don't think that's a good idea. I know the Raw and SmackDown women's divisions could use her, because Charlotte might be out for a while. I'll get to that later. Becky Lynch is gone for the foreseeable future, at least for the next year, in my opinion. I don't think she's coming back anytime soon if she just got pregnant. So anyway, I would bring her over to NXT first, and if you need more women for Raw and SmackDown, then call up someone like a Candice, who I know is doing well right now with Johnny Gargano, the whole heel shtick they got going on. But, she's been down in NXT for long enough where I'd be fine if she got moved up to Raw or SmackDown anytime soon. So, I would put Toni Storm in NXT first, and instead of moving her up to Raw or SmackDown, maybe move up Candice or Tegan. I don't think is ready. Shotzi they have. She's definitely not ready, although she is very good. I'm trying to think. Maybe Dakota Kai, who's been in NXT for a long time now. Maybe. I don't really feel like that's an obvious one, though. Bianca was ready. Probably Ripley. Ripley's already won the championship. If she ain't going to win the title back, which I don't think she will, probably move her up to Raw or SmackDown, because Raw could certainly use Ripley right now. Charlotte's going to be gone, and yeah, they have Asuka, and they have, God forbid, Nia. And the Raw Women's division needs as much help as it does when they're bringing in Sasha Banks to go for the Raw Women's Championship in the next pay-per-view, despite the fact that she's a SmackDown superstar. I don't think that's a smart idea. I'll get to the Sasha and Asuka match later. It's a great match. It should be a very good feud, but it doesn't speak too well to the rest of the Raw Women's division that they're putting Sasha in that spot when they have all these other women on Raw that they're already not doing enough with. So, anyway. So, going back to what I was saying, I don't really remember. But, put Ripley on Raw, Toni Storm on NXT proper. Now to the Facebook questions. First from Thomas B. from Facebook. His first question was, how concerned are you about the health and safety of all the wrestlers right now in the midst of this pandemic? Very concerned, specifically more for the indie people. I think you're probably talking health-wise, I've spoke about this so much before that I don't want to beat down a dead horse. I feel like we've already been down this road before about how it's not safe. The WWE thing about how they weren't properly testing people for COVID before recently is fucking disgusting. They absolutely should have been testing. They have the money for it. If AEW is doing it, WWE should be doing it too. There's zero excuse for not already testing people for COVID upon entering that arena. I don't give a shit if they're wearing masks backstage. I think that's great. They should be. But still, I just don't think that's a good idea, so that they're not already testing people for it. I guess they are now, or at least they did a week ago. I don't know. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the indie people that aren't making a paycheck right now. There's no indie shows for the most part going on. Everything was canceled months ago, and there's really no timetable on when it might return to normal, like a sense of normalcy in the sense of, getting full-on crowds, selling out buildings, stuff like that. It's going to be a while, I think, so I fear for those people. There's a lot of things I'm worried about when it comes to wrestling. And unfortunately, this is not the last of it, the pandemic, because now we have the whole speaking out movement, which I'll get to momentarily, too. I'm concerned more for wrestling in that respect, with, women being harassed and abused and nothing really being said until, the last week. That alone is an issue. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot to worry about right now in wrestling. That isn't my top concern, which says a lot, because that is important. But I do hope that everyone is doing well, taking the proper precautions. I have a lot of respect for people like Roman Reigns and Kyle O'Reilly and Sami Zayn. Some, like Roman he had leukemia, but I think he's staying home out of respect for his family. Kevin Owens, I just saw earlier today, said that he missed Raw this week because he told them, I don't really feel comfortable coming to Raw, because obviously someone contracted the coronavirus a week or two ago at the PC. Didn't feel comfortable. They said, fine, it's okay. No worries, no pushback, whatever. So I think that's cool. I have a lot of respect for people like that. And the people that are showing up, it's not that I don't have respect for them. It's great. They're still going to work. They're still making a paycheck. You got to do what you got to do. I assume Roman and people like that are still getting paid despite being out right now because it is their choice, as they should be. If they don't feel comfortable, then they shouldn't be there. I feel like the people there feel comfortable enough that they're still doing the shows. Some of them may feel like, yeah, WWE says that, but they may not necessarily feel that way. Where, like, if I'm, Roman Reigns, I can get away with it. But a lower card person, like a Drew Gulak or, I don't know, a Chad Gable, for example, if he doesn't feel comfortable being there and, he expresses his interest in staying home, they may either say no or they may grant him the ability to do so, but he may never be pushed again because he's a lower card guy. He's more expendable than someone like a Roman Reigns. You know what I'm saying? So I am concerned for their health and safety. Hopefully everything is improved after last week. AEW seems to be taking more appropriate precautions when it comes to protecting the safe and health, the health and safety, of their performers, which is good. But it's just a fucking mess. The whole thing is a mess. It sucks. Thomas's second question, do you think AEW's punishment for Sammy Guevara was right or was it too soft in your opinion? So to quickly catch people up to speed for those who may have missed it, which if you did, you might be living under a rock, but Sammy Guevara said in an interview about 4.5 years ago, and the audio is still on Twitter if you want to go out of your way to find it, that he would rape Sasha Banks. Yes, and the guy was not, 15, 16, 17, he was 22 years old. Now, yes, I did see Sammy's apology. I did watch the video. He is sorry, which is good. He seemed heartfelt and he seemed genuine in the apology video and on the tweets and whatever. He reached out to Sasha Banks. She addressed the matter too, which is good. I guess it was after Sammy went to like a tryout or something and he saw Sasha and he was like, oh yeah, she's so fine, I would rape her, blah, blah, blah. What a dumb fucking thing to say. Come on, dude. Like, even 4 years ago, that would have been a dumb thing to say. Just in general, but specifically to a podcast host where people can listen to that shit. And he said in his video about how he would do that type of shock humor. I get it. Sometimes I'd try to do that too. But to say it on a radio show that you would rape one of your colleagues is a little too far. And obviously there's a lot of negative shit there with the word rape, and I totally get it. It's a different world now even than it was 4 years ago, but what a dumb thing to say. So my opinion on the whole thing, he should be condemned for it. There's no defending that. There really is no, I don't care how good of a wrestler someone is. If AJ Styles said the same thing or whoever else, I would say the exact same thing. It was gross. It was disgusting. It was a dumb thing for him to say. Suspending him, I don't know. I mean, at least they didn't fire him. Because yes, they were dumb comments he made 4 years ago. If he expressed being a racist, maybe, that might be grounds for a dismissal, immediate dismissal, or a suspension. Like a Lars Sullivan, for example. It's really it's a sensitive situation. It's a touchy subject. Because I don't want to say that he shouldn't have suffered any consequences. Because it was a gross thing that he said. But he didn't say it while he was in the company. And I don't know. Maybe the suspension is the right way to go. Firing is just way too harsh. I mean, he said it. He apologized. We can just move on. I don't want to defend the guy. I'm not defending the guy. What he said was terrible. I'm not going to say, oh, people are too sensitive. No, what he said was gross, and he should be fucking roasted for it. I get it. The suspension, I feel like, was only done because the company felt like they had no other choice. Otherwise, they may get pushback from fans and be called out for double standards for what Jimmy Havoc did, for suspending him and then sending him to rehab and not doing anything with Sammy Guevara. From a business standpoint, they did what they had to do. I don't think it was entirely necessary to suspend the guy. It's not like he said it recently. I know it was 4 years ago. He wasn't with the company then. He's a different person now. He apologized. The apology was mandatory. That goes without saying. Reaching out to Sasha was absolutely necessary. He did that. Aside from taking time off from social media, I'm not really sure what more you can do. I guess you can suspend the guy. I guess that was only really necessary coming off what's going on right now. But it's not the same thing as Jimmy Havoc. For Jimmy Havoc to do what he did, that's the issue. Like, I know they're sending Jimmy to rehab and whatever, but to suspend Sammy, I feel like puts him in the same group as Jimmy Havoc, who should absolutely be fucking fired. And it's not the same thing either. To say, oh yeah, Jimmy Havoc did all of this before he was with the company. I said that about Sammy, but what Jimmy did was, reprehensible. What Sammy said was, reprehensible as well. But I feel like there is a difference because the guy is a documented, with several accusations against him, a documented abuser, I didn't read all the stories about Havoc, but I read enough to realize that the guy's a piece of shit, and he needs some serious help. Some issues that he might still be dealing with to this day. So I think it's a bit different than what Sammy said, putting the two in the same category and suspending him. I don't think is fair. I would get rid of Havoc. I think Guevara only really needed to apologize. I can see why they suspended him. I don't know. I just don't think the suspension was necessary. That's not defending what he said, like I said, and I hate to keep going on about this, but Guevara, or rather Havoc, was suspended too. Guevara did not do what Havoc did. He said something really dumb, out of jest, which was not funny, and the guy, he suffered the consequences. Havoc, the guy should probably be fired. And I've grown to be a Havoc fan in recent months. No more. The guy's a piece of shit. And that sucks, but that's just my 2 cents. FD from Facebook, their first question was kind of on that same subject. Despite its good intentions on the surface, do you feel that the hashtag speaking out movement could end up spreading the hashtag cancel culture that's been spread throughout the entire entertainment and even other industries lately, if not used properly? Do you see the careers of those who have been directly accused from the movement, like Joey Ryan, to be over for good? Finally, how would you feel about the impact of speaking out on the whole wrestling industry, companies and wrestlers' welfare, and the pop culture in general in the long run? I don't really know what you're getting at with that last question there. With the first 2 parts of your question, here are my thoughts on it. I don't know what you're trying to say about how, it has good intentions, which obviously it does. I'm not really sure how that can be argued. I think you're saying, what if it starts to lead to cancel culture, people being canceled, blah, blah, blah. The issue is, I hate the whole cancel thing. It sounds ridiculously dumb. The issue is that these people getting canceled, as it's being called, deserve to be canceled because they're pieces of shit. So yes, it negatively impacts the business, but you gotta weed these people out. You gotta get rid of these pieces of shit. These people should not be in wrestling. They should not be in locker rooms. They should not be training other women. They should not be dating their trainees. That's fucking gross. Some people's actions, I don't want to put everyone in one category. Some people are more gross than others. But Joey Ryan deserves to go to fucking jail. That guy's a piece of shit. I've never been a big fan of him anyway, but I always kind of wonder, the boobplex, really, where the guy is legitimately grabbing women by their breasts and then suplexing them in back of him. That's fucking gross. I don't give a shit. It's part of the gimmick. I never really understood that. And then after hearing the reports that came out about Joey Ryan in the last couple of days, I cannot say I'm surprised whatsoever. I mean, come on, dude. I don't give a fuck if it's part of the gimmick. I would say the same thing if it was a girl doing it to a guy or a guy doing it to a guy or whatever. The whole grabbing the dick thing was always dumb. But I remember over WrestleMania weekend last year, I remember texting RJ about it. He'll remember that Joey Ryan, I think at WrestleCon, who I saw at WrestleCon, didn't meet him, didn't take a picture, and I'm glad I didn't. But he was doing the special VIP photo session where you could have your picture taken with Joey Ryan with your hand on his dick. I mean, obviously with fucking clothes on, but come on, dude. What the fuck? What the fuck? Jim Cornette is overly negative, and that guy, I mean, there's a lot of accusations against him as well. So that's a whole other discussion. But Joey Ryan getting criticized by Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette says a lot of dumb shit, and I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he is absolutely on point when he shits on Joey Ryan's dumb penis gimmick. It's so stupid. I'm so glad that AEW didn't sign him. I think that was more of a Joey Ryan decision, but thank God, because AEW dodged the bullet there when they didn't sign Joey Ryan. Joey Ryan opted to run his own independent promotion, do it for indie wrestling, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, how did that work out for David Starr, another piece of shit, who's all about indie wrestling, oh yeah, rights for the guys, the union, blah, blah, blah. And then he does what he does, and that goes back a long time as well. To not just one person either, multiple women. Same thing with Joey Ryan. I read somewhere 15 accusations against Joey Ryan. What the fuck? So anyway, for anyone arguing, it's good that the speaking out movement is happening, but, I don't want to see people get canceled. For people that should not be accused, that are wrongfully accused, yeah, I agree. But that seems to be the vast minority. It seems like very few people are actually getting canceled, so to speak, for the wrong reasons. And some, Tyler Bate was accused of, trying to bring some woman back to his hotel, and she said no, and that was it. Like, I don't really see the big deal there. But for people like Joey Ryan, I've seen ring announcers talking to little boys in DMs. That's fucking disgusting. Like 14, 15-year-old. I guess they're not little, but like that, it's underage and it's fucking gross. Justin Roberts, same thing. I'm a fan of the guy, and he has yet to address the rumors and whatnot. But that's fucking gross. Dave Lagana, same thing. I think he denied it last night, but, I don't know if he deleted his Twitter. I don't think he did. But he did resign from the NWA head director position that he held before, whatever, for sexually harassing a woman that he was, like, sleeping in the same bed with but had no relationship with. It's kind of a long story, but that was, like, 10 years ago. She came out about it. He resigned. He denied it, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that was a whole issue as well. So yeah, these people deserve to be canceled. Will it, negatively impact the wrestling industry? Obviously, but it should, because these people deserve to be fucking outed because they're gross. It's disgusting. And listen, we've all done shit that we're not proud of, but if you're guilty of this type of thing, then go fucking burn in hell, because a lot of this shit is, again, inexcusable. Inexcusable. It's disgusting. So, and they don't deserve to be in the professional wrestling industry. The same thing goes for Matt Riddle. I like Matt Riddle, but if he's found to be guilty, which I guess WWE already knew about the charges, not the charges, but like the stalker and, him pressing charges against this woman, Candy Cartwright. I guess they already knew about that, apparently, when he first signed with them a couple of years ago, which is smart. You shouldn't hide that stuff. I think Enzo wasn't fired for being an alleged rapist, which he wasn't. He got fired for not telling the company, I think, about the charges against him. That's a big no-no. And he was already a problem child anyway, I guess, so that doesn't really surprise me. But again, if Matt Riddle was found guilty of doing the stuff that he was accused of, he should be out of wrestling too. Wrestling does not need those type of people. It does not matter how talented they may be. Jordan Devlin, you guys know I'm a big fan of. He might be a big piece of shit too if he's found to be guilty of whatever he was accused of. He denied it. People still believe the accuser. I don't know what to believe right now. We got to get more details. Velveteen Dream, same exact thing. He was accused a month and a half ago, went nowhere. Now he's accused again. The proof seems pretty concrete to me personally. He's a piece of shit if that's true. So anyway, the whole thing, it sucks. It's really depressing that wrestling has come to this. The fact that this shit is happening in 2020, I mean, obviously it should have never happened at all, but the fact that this stuff is still happening in such a big, it's like with racism. The fact that it's still around on such a grand scale in 2020 is disgusting. It's shocking and it's disgusting. I probably shouldn't be shocked, but again, this isn't like a few people here and there, one person was found to be a pedophile, blah, 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 or a rapist or whatever. These are people in WWE, NXT, AEW, MLW, Ring of Honor. Marty Scurll came out with a statement. New Japan literally affects every promotion out there. Impact, everyone. New Japan as well. NWA. It's not good. It's not good. And I'm hoping more people speak out. I don't give a shit about this cancel culture bullshit. If people are falsely accused, then yeah, it sucks. But I hope more people speak out. I hope more people come out with their stories. I do see it continuing. Someone else asked me about that in a later question. I absolutely do not see this as being the end of it, because a lot of people told their stories and withheld names. And I think those names might be released at some point once more evidence comes out against them. There was another person, not another person, but like other people who decided to not tell their stories because they felt it wasn't the right time, but they do have stories. So that tells me that there might be more stories coming down the road. Yeah, I feel like there might be some people that are stretching the truth, that aren't true, blah, blah, blah. Again, that's got to be the vast minority, if at all. I believe a lot of the accusations being told here, and it's fucking gross. FD's second question, do you see Sasha Banks and Bayley ending up winning all the main roster gold by the end of Extreme Rules, with Sasha Banks potentially winning the Raw Women's Championship from Asuka, and how would their total dominance benefit both of them in the short run, as well as their inevitable feud against each other down the line? So yeah, like I said earlier, Sasha is facing Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship at Extreme Rules. As I said earlier, and as they will write about in an article for Bleacher Report on Friday, I love the idea of Asuka versus Sasha. They should have great chemistry, and the match should be fun, and it's a fresh feud. I like it a lot. I don't think Sasha's going to win. I don't want to say it's predictable. I think I wrote that in my Raw review, The more that I think about it, though, and I think there is a decent chance that Sasha could win the championship just so they could do like a 2-woman power trip type scenario, with Bayley being the SmackDown Women's Champion, Sasha being the Raw Women's Champion, both of them being the tag team champions. I don't really want to see that Asuka just won the championship and Sasha is great. I think Sasha should be the SmackDown Women's Champion. And I don't really want to see Bayley and Sasha fight in like a unification match. We already got that shit at WrestleMania last year. We don't need a unification match. Sasha should lose. They should lose the tag titles before or around SummerSlam time. And then they could do Bayley and Sasha at SummerSlam. To wait any longer on that story, it'll run its course. It already kind of has, to be honest with you, because we've been waiting for this match on the main roster for years now. This one-on-one pay-per-view caliber feud for a long time. SummerSlam is the place to do it. I don't give a fuck if it's in front of an arena at this point or not. It doesn't really matter. In Boston would have been great. Out of the question, it seems like at this point, which sucks, but it is what it is. To wait till WrestleMania, which also could have regulations in place, just do it now. You know, the SmackDown Women's Division has got to move on from Bayley as champion, and I like Bayley a lot, but they got to give the belt to someone like a Lacey or a Naomi and really just try something new. I mean, after Sasha, obviously, because once the division is all about Bayley and Sasha, no one else means anything. That's the issue. When Asuka was the NXT Women's Champion and she left after she dropped the belt, it was Asuka and then everyone else. And that division sucked for a long time because they had to rebuild that roster and make those women mean something again. Thankfully they did, which was good, but it took a long time. But anyway, though, so no, I don't see Sasha winning. She could. I don't see her winning. I do see Sasha and Bayley still happening, though, at the SummerSlam pay-per-view in August. His third question, with Charlotte potentially out with a surgery for a few months right now, could this finally be the right opportunity for the WWE to emphasize on pushing some new and underutilized women's talents in the main women's division picture? And if so, who do you expect to fill in Charlotte's shoes in her absence? That's a good question. So to kind of shine some light on that with the whole Charlotte thing, I didn't get this gist from watching Raw on Monday, but I guess she's going to be out for a while. And Natalya kind of seemed to confirm that on Raw Talk later on in the night when she said, Charlotte's going to be out for a while. We're going to miss her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what's that about? And then I read about how Charlotte is she's doing elective surgery. Not really sure what that means. I don't know if that's another breast implant thing or like she's either... I don't know. I honestly have no idea what that means. But a surgery is a surgery. She's not hurt. She isn't sick, it was said. She's just kind of taking time off. She took time off for a surgery to get like one of her implants fixed a couple of years ago. And then, she was gone for maybe a month or two, maybe a month and a half or so, 6 weeks probably. So with her being gone now, the timing could not be worse. And if she wants to take time off, that's her deal. Like, it's not her fault. But WWE, this is exactly what I said no more than a few weeks ago. If Charlotte was to ever take time off, get her leave or whatever, this company is fucked. Because the only two people they've really built up, aside from Bayley and Sasha over on SmackDown, are Becky and Charlotte. Now, yeah, they have women down in NXT, but between the two main roster brands, they have not built up enough women to matter in the absence of Becky and Charlotte. Charlotte beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Rhea, unquestionably in my opinion, you cannot even argue me on this, has not felt the same since WrestleMania. I know there's no fans, that plays a factor. She lost a lot of her momentum when she lost to WrestleMania. That was fucking dumb. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, she gets all the dream matches in NXT. Who gives a fuck, dude? Who gives a shit about seeing her against Mia Yim? It was cool, don't get me wrong. We had some cool matches there for a little bit. It was a failure. It served no purpose. Triple H said recently, oh yeah, Charlotte holding the championship will factor into something down the road, or like it was all a part of the story. What fucking story? Rhea having to redeem herself? She should have lost the belt to Io Shirai in the first place. Charlotte served no purpose on NXT. I hear all that bullshit, and all I hear in return is, we wanted ratings, it didn't work, so we put the belt on Io instead, because we realized it was a flop. That's what I heard when I heard Triple H talk about Charlotte being champion. So they have Charlotte beat Rhea at WrestleMania. Rhea could have already been on the main roster by now, if she lost to Io in the last couple of months, and she could be filling in for Charlotte and Becky as we speak. They still could do that, but she doesn't mean as much as she did, because they took her off TV. They've had Charlotte on Raw, despite the fact that she was the NXT Women's Champion. She was still on Raw anyway, taking TV time away from someone like a Bianca Belair, who doesn't mean anything anymore because she hasn't been on TV in months. Shayna Baszler should have beaten Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, she should have beaten her because she's pregnant now, but even if she wasn't pregnant, she still should have won. She still should have won the fucking match at WrestleMania. Another person who does not feel nearly as hot as she was 2 or 3 months ago is Shayna Baszler. That's an issue. So anyway, they have a great inability, as I've said before, to move on from the 4 Horsewomen. I love them. They're great. It could be way worse. It could be all about the Bellas as it was, like 5-10 years ago. I get it. But they need to create more stars with the women. How many times do I have to say this? Nia Jax, first of all, is not the fucking answer. They got to build up Shayna. They got to build up Bianca. They got to build up Lacey. They got to build up Naomi. Naomi's been around forever, too. She's actually been around a lot longer than the 4 Horsewomen. But I would take her in the title picture over Charlotte for like the 10th time, personally. And I like Charlotte a lot. It's more about how she's booked. And now that Charlotte is gone for a while, yes, they should be creating more opportunities. They should create more opportunities for the women of Raw and SmackDown to kind of step up. Will it happen? Who knows? It's not the fault of the talent. It's 100% the fault of the company for not already focusing on more women outside of Charlotte and Becky. And Becky deserved the push that she got. It was great to see her featured so prominently. But they should have passed the torch when they had the chance to Shayna Baszler or someone else. And yeah, Asuka's champion now, and that's fine. And she's had a decent run so far. But then who else? The well runs dry. Natalya sucks. Who gives a fuck about Natalya in 2020? Lana fucking sucks. Liv Morgan is still very much a work in progress. Ruby Riott is a lot better than they give her credit for. They might be reforming the Riott Squad. Honestly, who gives a shit, because they never really meant anything in the first place, but it could be a nice new team for the tag team division. Alright, awesome. The Iconics are losers. I don't give a fuck about the Iconics. Nia Jax, need I say more? She's terrible. We haven't seen Kairi in a while. They can build up Kairi. She does not mean as much as she should. We haven't seen Bianca in months. We haven't seen Shayna in months. Over on the SmackDown side, Tamina is terrible. Lacey, she's definitely cooled off since earlier this year. Naomi has cooled off 100%. 100%. Dana Brooke is just not good. They've had her win matches. I just don't give a fuck. Again, I've been over all of this before. I sound like I'm beating down a dead horse here. I sound like a broken record, and I apologize. But it just pisses me off when shit like this happens with Charlotte and she's gone, and they have no women to fall back on because they beat everyone else. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, at Michael Network from Twitter, his question, thoughts on wrestling Twitter? Kind of a broad question. I mean, right now it's a shit show, but, I mean, again, the right people, or rather the wrong people, I guess, are being called out because they're pieces of shit. It's just, I log into Twitter every day now and I see new reports and it breaks my heart. But these people should be speaking out. This should not have happened in the first place. It's not just wrestling Twitter, just Twitter in general can be such a fucking cesspool. And I don't want to say like, oh, it used to be a lot better. Because even, 5-10 years ago when I first started using Twitter, it was the same thing as it is now, just in a different form, to be quite honest with you. If you know how to use Twitter and you use it properly, it can be a great tool. I don't want to say Twitter is completely a waste of time. If it was, I wouldn't be on it. And I kind of have to be on it as being a journalist and whatever, and, finding news and whatever, keeping up to date with certain things. But even if I wasn't, I would still use Twitter because it's a great way to keep in contact with people, meet new friends, meet, like people that read my work, go back and forth with people about that. But like, for example, I said it last week, I had a tweet that I put out on SmackDown, and I know I realized I should know better at this point to speak ill of like the 4 Horsewomen, but I called Sasha and Bayley overexposed because they're on every fucking show every single week, or they have been for the last 2 weeks. They were last week. That's what I tweeted about. I said they were on Backlash, Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. I legit had 100 responses, most of which were from Sasha stans, and I fucking hate that word. That's one thing I hate about Twitter. The whole stan culture is fucking dumb. That shit can just die a death, because that's terrible. But I had a lot of Sasha fans reaching out, and most of whom weren't, like, vicious or mean. My tweet wasn't taken out of context. It was more so that I kind of worded it poorly. But still, people will jump down your fucking throat. If you don't agree with something, then you gotta respond and tell them to fuck off. Like, even if I see someone say something dumb, like Jackson Riker, for example, I'm not gonna quote tweet him and call him a dumb piece of shit, because it's not really going to accomplish anything. I don't follow the guy. I don't give a fuck about him. I see it. I laugh. I move on. Who cares? Who gives a shit? I've never honestly understood the point of replying to someone. And again, if you want to have a civil discussion about why I disagree with this, that's great. But unfortunately, that seems to be the vast minority. I see a lot of people like, for example, Charlotte Flair is the greatest of all time. If someone was to tweet that out, I may not necessarily agree. I've seen people call Jinder Mahal's championship reign a success. I just kind of laugh at that shit, show it to RJ, and we kind of are like, wow, what a dumb comment to make. But I'm not going to go out of my way, respond to that person, call them a dumb idiot, and say all the reasons why their opinion is wrong. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, even if it's a dumb opinion. And if you want to think it's stupid, that's fine, but to go out of your way to reply to someone specifically that you don't follow either, which is even worse, to say why you disagree. I mean, again, if it's done in a civil way, I'm okay with that, because I've had that before, and I like, positive, civil, discussions when it comes to stuff like that. But I see way too much negativity with wrestling. It's ridiculous. People will shit on certain things, and people will comment on things just because other people are commenting on them, just because it's the cool thing to do, and it's like, no. So I've tried to kind of get off Twitter a little more than usual. Lately, it's been hard just because there's so much going on with the whole speaking out thing and everything else going on right now. Again, it's a great tool to interact with people for the right reasons, get information, spread information, share work, get feedback, stuff like that. And, meet generally new people and have, fun convos. Unfortunately, people have lost sight of that and use it for the wrong reasons and just attack people. Use it to attack people. Who gives a fuck? If you wouldn't do it in real life, why would you go out of this person? Again, if you want to tweet it out on your own feed, again, it depends what it is, but to call, I think I've said this before, but when Deonna Purrazzo was still in NXT, people would tweet her saying oh, you put on some weight. Why? Why would you do that? Why do you gotta be that asshole? You know what I mean? And these people could get all the positive messages in the world, but it's that one negative comment that really bothers them. That's just human nature. And wrestlers are no different. People treat them as if they're never going to see this feedback or blah, blah, blah. Hey, listen, I could sit here and say Nia Jax is a terrible professional wrestler. I just don't think she's good at all. I'm not going to go out of my way to tweet the woman and say, listen, you suck. You shouldn't be here. Get fired. Who gives a shit? She doesn't give a fuck what I think, nor should she. But I'm also not going to go out of my way to her directly to be negative. So I don't know. It's a whole thing, and that's not just wrestling. That's really everybody. But that's my 2 cents on that. John Ritland from the YouTube machine, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his channel at Reborn Again. His first question was, with all that's gone and is still going on as more allegations come out, do you think that more and more wrestlers will get cut and even blacklisted from companies? Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of these stories are still pending. People like Ligero, Jordan Devlin, Matt Riddle, they're not 100% in the clear. People may think that, and I kind of thought that for a split second. They're not. Until we find out for sure that the accusations were either stretched or aren't true or whatever, they are not in the clear. So if more were to come out about, Devlin or Ligero or whatever, then yeah, I could see them getting fired easily. Gallagher, it was obviously fired about a week ago, right before SmackDown on Friday. And he hasn't denied anything. He hasn't commented on anything, which tells me that he's probably guilty. It's not an admission of guilt to not say that you didn't do it or whatever, but it doesn't look good. The fact that he got fired does not speak well to what happened. Marty Scurll, I'm a big fan of the guy, but he put out this very bad statement yesterday on Twitter, admitting that he did what he was accused of. And in short, I'm pretty sure that he had slept with a 16-year-old girl, I think, and he didn't deny that. He just said that she was legal, that it was consensual. She says otherwise, that she was too drunk to even give consent. So maybe she was legal. The thing is that over in the UK, I believe 16 is the legal age, which is kind of gross to me. You might be saying to yourself, 2 years, that doesn't make a difference. It definitely does. You can't sit here and tell me that you are the same person at 18 that you were at 16. You can't. You're more mature. Even 18, a lot of people make dumb decisions, but there is a definite difference there between 16 and 18, and I think that's kind of gross. And the fact that the guy was 30 or whatever is even worse. So, yeah, I thought he put out a pretty shitty statement. Ring of Honor might cut ties with him. And that's only inevitable, to be honest with you. I'm not saying it will happen, but I think there's a very good chance that the Marty Scurll shit might get enough blowback from fans that he may just be cut, or he might just leave, because he's in a pretty prominent position in that company. He's one of the head bookers. How are they supposed to have women come into the company and trust him if he has a history of sexually abusing women or taking advantage of them? That's not good. So, yeah, I do think more and more wrestlers will be fired, blacklisted, what have you. I know Joey Ryan just got fired, as he should have. The guy's a fucking, scumbag. But, yeah, I don't think this is anywhere near being over quite yet. His second question, so Charlotte will apparently be off TV for the foreseeable future. Is this going to be a blessing in disguise? The thing is, it could be, because like I said earlier, it could lead to more women getting opportunities, which is what we need. The thing is that, for example, Ronda Rousey leaves. They focused on her for a year. She leaves. You would think, okay, more women will get more opportunities. More women will rise up. And again, it's not the fault of the women, because they're only as good as the company makes them out to be when it comes to booking and whatnot. Ronda Rousey leaves. You expect more women to get opportunities. Tell me one woman, anyone, in the last, when did she leave? In April? So 16 months. Or no, 14. I'm an idiot, and I just fucking hit the mic. In the last 14 months, that has benefited from Ronda Rousey being gone. Who rose up and took her spot? Becky? Becky was already hot. Charlotte, she was already a top star. Bayley and Sasha, they were already big stars as far as the women go. You could say Ripley, Shayna, maybe, but their success strictly comes from what happened in NXT. From what happened in NXT over the last year. Definitely not what WWE did with them on the main roster. So, in short, no new stars were created since Ronda Rousey left. Aside from further pushing the 4 horsewomen. Again, they're great. I would rather have the 4 horsewomen than no one as far as stars in that women's division. Go back 10 years ago. That division had nobody. Eve Torres, Alicia Fox, give me a break. And Eve Torres was great. Alicia Fox, not so much. But they didn't even have those pillars of the women's division back then. They have more than enough women now to, have 2 different brands, have 2 different divisions. And that's great. But they need more than beyond just them. Because if any one of them gets hurt, or if any one of them has to miss time, like Becky and Charlotte right now, who both just happen to be on Raw, then they're fucked. So I don't honestly know. Charlotte's absence could be a blessing in disguise. If she comes back a month from now, maybe not that quickly, but a couple of months from now, later on this year, and they've since started to push Bianca Belair or Ruby Riott or Liv Morgan or on the SmackDown side, Lacey Evans or someone like that, then yeah, it would be a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, like when Ronda Rousey left, they just stopped giving a shit about the division. They stopped having multiple matches with the women. It was really just the 4 horsewomen and then everyone else, which is what it was before Ronda Rousey came in the picture. But yeah, that was a problem. So hopefully that won't be the same case. Hopefully Charlotte's absence will lead to more people getting pushed, but I'm not holding my breath. At noob_n_co 1991, what were your thoughts on Asuka beating Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship on Monday? Will WWE make new stars in the women's division? I just got done talking about this, but I was glad that Asuka just tapped out Charlotte on Raw. I would have saved it for a bigger stage. That was what I tweeted about on Monday, but I can understand now that's why they didn't do it at SummerSlam, because Charlotte might not be around for SummerSlam, so I could see why they did it on Raw. Hey, you know what? I'm glad they did it as opposed to not doing it at all. I would rather do it on Raw than not at all, and Charlotte comes back and they do it at Rumble or whatever, which I guess they could have, but it helps Asuka in the meantime. Asuka may not even be champion by the time that Charlotte comes back. It could be, it could be Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler could be who they're building to taking that title from Asuka at SummerSlam, which is what I want to see anyway. Asuka beats Sasha at Extreme Rules, and then Asuka drops the belt to Shayna at SummerSlam. That's where I want to see this thing go. So I thought it was a good match on Raw. Asuka and Charlotte work well together. I thought it was kind of premature to blow off the story with Asuka never having beaten Charlotte before on an episode of Raw. But it makes more sense when you think about Charlotte's going to be out for a while, so that's probably why they rushed to it. And again, it's better than nothing. It's better than Asuka beating Charlotte by counting or DQ because Nia interfered. I like the way they did it on Raw. Charlotte had an out for losing because she had a hurt shoulder, so I like that a lot. Let's see here. Their second question, what are your thoughts on Sasha Banks challenging Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship at Extreme Rules, and how will the SmackDown Women's Division react to it? Yeah, it's weird because I guess Sasha could technically challenge for the championship at the pay-per-view because the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions can go wherever they please. That is part of the canon with the tag team titles, so I get it. It's part of the storyline. Challenging for the opposite brand's championship, I'm not a big fan, but again, I can kind of forgive it because Asuka and Sasha should be a great match, and it can be a fun feud with a good story being told with Banks and Bayley wanting to claim all the championships in WWE. It's a logical next step without getting to Bayley and Banks just yet. I like that. But yeah, so we'll see how it affects the SmackDown Women's division. Hopefully Bayley still has a match at the pay-per-view. But then again, it's Extreme Rules. And if Bayley ain't having an Extreme Rules match with someone on the show, which why would she? Because she's not really feuding with anyone right now from SmackDown. She's already beat Naomi, Dana, Lacey, Tamina multiple times. Carmella. Who really more is there for her to defend against? Nobody. So it sucks for the SmackDown Women's division. They might suffer from this whole thing. But it is a cool idea, and hopefully the match will live up to expectations. So, yeah, John already asked this, but Noob's third question was, with the speaking out movement still in effect, will more wrestlers be blacklisted or fired? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I honestly think it's only inevitable, which sucks, but hey, this shit should not have happened in the first place, and you gotta suffer the consequences. With that type of shit, yeah, with Sammy, it's like, okay, it was a couple of years ago, we said something dumb, he shouldn't have said it, it was gross, I wouldn't fire him, he shouldn't be blacklisted, he should apologize, blah, blah, blah. With what these guys not just said, but did, yeah, they should be fired and blacklisted, absolutely. We do not need that shit in the wrestling business, or anywhere, really, for that matter. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, do you think we should get a swerve where Dominic does join Seth, but it's this Dominic instead? And he inserted a gif of Dominic Dijakovic. That's a great swerve. I don't know how no one else thought about that, but that's a great swerve. So, a bit of a small thing, not that it really matters. They're spelling Dominic's name now, Dominic, Rey Mysterio's son, the same way they spelled Dominic Dijakovic's name. I don't know why. They've spelled it the original way before, which would have been Dominick. Dominic Dijakovic does not have the C at the end. Dominic Mysterio did, and then they took it away. So he's no different than Alexander Rusev or Big E Langston or Antonio Cesaro or Mustafa Ali, who ended up getting his first name back, and people like that, Elias Sampson. Anyway, so yeah, that would not be a bad idea. So Dominic Dijakovic has been rumored for a Raw call-up for a while, and I would like to see him on Raw. It'd be cool if he stuck around in NXT. There's not a ton more for him to do there. I'd be fine with him if he stuck around in NXT. Not a lot more for him to do if he's not going to win the North American Championship. So if he goes to Raw, putting him with Rollins I just don't feel like he's a good fit on paper. Maybe I'm wrong and he would be. He could be like the resident big guy and they can have a 4-man group. I like the group as it is with Seth, Buddy, and Theory. Or Murphy, rather. Not Buddy Murphy. It's just Murphy now. I like the 3-man group. I don't really know if they need a 4th guy. That's not a bad idea. And honestly, it's better than just bringing him in to face like Apollo Crews, for example, for the United States Championship, and then he disappears after that, like Bianca Belair, where like they bring him in, he looks good in defeat, and then they don't really do anything with the guy, like Ricochet, who's in the fucking tag team purgatory ranks right now. So, yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that at all. It's actually, again, he doesn't make a lot of sense with them on paper, where it's like, oh yeah, I just put him right with Rollins. But I may have said the same thing about Theory, and he actually fits in with them quite well. So maybe Dominic Dijakovic would be similar, an equally fitting, candidate for Seth Rollins' faction, but time will tell. At RJ_Marceau from the Twitter machine, Mr. Marceau's first question was, push repackage release Angel Garza, Andrade, and Santos Escobar. Man, I know there's really no right answer with this because RJ, as do I, love all 3 of these guys. They're all great. So what I would do with these 3 guys, and people may not want to hear this, I would release Andrade, because of the 3, the guy can't really speak English all that well, which usually doesn't matter a lot, but when Escobar and Garza have great English-speaking skills, and yeah, Andrade has Zelina Vega for a reason, but at some point, you got to be able to speak. At some point. I mean, again, Brock's mic skills aren't amazing either, but I just feel like with Andrade, that's what's holding him back. So of the two, though, I think Garza might have more potential, honestly, to go further than Andrade. So I would repackage Garza into maybe a babyface or put him on his own, whatever. Do whatever he was doing in NXT because he was great there. And he's doing well now, but, he just needs to be tweaked a bit. Fine-tuned, albeit ever so slightly. And then push Escobar. I love Santos Escobar from what I've seen from the guy so far. He's a star. He could speak great. He looks the part. He's great in the ring. I know his work from Lucha. He's very, very good. Push that guy to the fucking moon. He can be what Del Rio could have been, with the exception of not being a fucking wife beater. So let's put it that way. And the fact he's more entertaining, and he is just better in almost every aspect. So what they saw with Del Rio, Escobar can be tenfold. So push Escobar, release Andrade, and repackage Garza. I think we're like over an hour in now, and I still have a bunch of questions left. I went off on a rant about the speaking out stuff and the pieces of shit that were accused and everything else. So I'll try to wrap it up because I do got to get going soon. But we have plenty of questions left from Twitter, including RJ's second question. I know you discussed this last week of Sasha Banks and Bayley being overexposed, potentially, but do you think they can be the next faces of the women's division / company now that Becky Lynch is gone? I do. I could see them, so, for example, if they were promoting, WWE's coming to town, and they need they need a few female faces on the poster, I could see Asuka being on it, absolutely. Just because she's colorful, she stands out, she's great, obviously. Asuka, Sasha, and Bayley. I know Sasha and Bayley are both heels, and you can't have like a heel face of the women's, they're both heels. Sasha will probably go tweener soon when she breaks away from Bayley, if not full-fledged babyface. But yeah, aside from Bayley and Sasha, who means remotely as much as those two? Maybe Nia, but she's terrible. Maybe Ripley if they bring her up. Asuka's great, but she still needs to be rebuilt after all the many months and years of bad booking that she's endured, despite the fact she's been very successful. But yeah, I would say the biggest stars that they have, and Asuka's good, but even she's still on the road to being rehabbed, are Sasha and Bayley. So I know that's not saying a lot. It's kind of like, by default, they're the next biggest stars in that division because their two top ones are gone, in Charlotte and Becky. But yeah, I think they can be. They've been all over TV lately, which, is overexposure, but at least it's been entertaining. They have a good story. They're great wrestlers. Bayley is coming into her own as a heel. I have liked her as a heel lately. I didn't initially. I went on a rant about that a few months ago, but she is improving. Sasha's great. So yeah, I think Sasha and Bayley could fill in those roles quite well. At Iwagoon91, while I doubt this will happen, what if Jungle Boy eventually gives MJF, the magnificent jerk face, as at Iwagoon91 calls him, his first singles loss on AEW? He shouldn't, and I don't think he will. I hate the fact that MJF is even feuding with those guys still. And MJF and Jungle Boy have great chemistry. The Double or Nothing match was a lot of fun. The issue is that MJF has already beaten him 3 times. There's nothing on the line here. It's not this personal vendetta. They just have no idea what the fuck to do with MJF. That's the problem. He should be either in a championship picture, and I assume he will be. I assume he is being held off for Moxley, probably at All Out, but they have Brian Cage first. But they need to have him move on and face either Kenny or Adam or Christopher Daniels or somebody. Scorpio Sky, maybe. Having him face the Jurassic Express every week just, to me, accomplishes nothing. So, no, Jungle Boy should not be the one to give MJF his first loss. If anything, it should be Moxley at All Out. His second question: considering that Cesaro has had several tag teams in the WWE over the last couple of years, except for one time, why didn't WWE have him and Cassius Ohno team up again when the latter was in the company both times? That never made sense to me. Never made sense why they never did the Kings of Wrestling just once. I know they did it for like an NXT house show, or no, I'm sorry, it was an NXT TV taping, but it was a dark match. I think it was the Kings of Wrestling versus Rollins and CM Punk, which sounds absolutely amazing. I think Cesaro may have been a champion on the main roster, I'm not sure. But I know Rollins was NXT champion and Punk was the WWE champion, which is pretty fucking cool. It wasn't like a barn burner because it was like a dark match main event, so it was just good at best. But other than that, they've never teamed up. I know they reunited on an NXT house show like a year or two ago. The fact they never reunited was really disappointing to me. Like NXT UK could have used them. They could have been cool in NXT. Cesaro, it's not like they're doing anything with the main roster anyway. It's not like they're really pushing him or doing anything meaningful with the guy. So why not? You're right, he's had so many teams with Tyson Kidd, Jack Swagger, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sheamus. The guy's teamed with like practically everyone under the fucking sun, except for Cassius Ohno in WWE. And Cassius Ohno was another guy. It's not like they were ever pushing him. He was always like a player coach type dude in NXT, never really being pushed, ever. He was more of a stepping stone, if anything. A lot like Cesaro in the main roster, so why not put them back together? Albeit briefly. That never made sense to me. Kind of on that same note, what if Cassius Ohno debuted in the main roster, or on the main roster, he asks, and joined forces with the Bar to rival the New Day? I was hoping for that a couple of years ago, when the Bar was feuding with them back in, what would it have been, 2017, 2018? I know they feuded over the Raw Tag Team titles like in 2016, but they were feuding over the SmackDown Tag Team titles in like 2018 over on the SmackDown brand. And I was hoping instead of Big Show, fucking Big Show, they would put Ohno in that spot instead. Because they did a lot of Bar, Big Show, New Day 6-man tag team matches. But what it really should have been was the Bar and Cassius Ohno in the New Day. I guess it would have become an issue of what do you do with the guy beyond that. But maybe Sheamus breaks away on his own and then you do Cesaro and Cassius Ohno. I think that would have been pretty cool. That would have been a cool transition from the Bar to Kings of Wrestling. But they didn't do it, which sucks. His other question, I've always wanted Daniel Bryan to face The Undertaker one-on-one as much as a lot of other people wanted Taker versus Sting, with Taker retiring. Is it a bummer to you that Undertaker and Bryan never got that matchup? Yeah, I think it was rumored at one point. I want to say at WrestleMania 30. I think there was a rumor that Bryan, which he ended up main eventing, for the World Championship facing Triple H in the opener. I mean, I'm glad we got that match instead of Bryan and Taker. But Bryan and Taker, when it was rumored, yeah, it could have been a very fun match, but the issue is that it was babyface versus babyface. The streak was still intact. Bryan would have lost, guaranteed. The guy should not have lost again. He needed to win that WrestleMania, and he did ultimately. Yeah, it would have spared us from the streak being broken at that point, and it would have spared us from that awful Brock and Taker match, and Taker getting concussed and everything else. And Bryan probably would have given him a very fun match. It's not a match that I look at as being, oh, what a dream match. I'm so sad we didn't get it. Because at least we got AJ and Taker, but I don't know. I don't really see that making sense. Maybe a heel Bryan, but he wasn't a heel until recently. And I know he was a heel back in 2012, but it didn't make sense back then either. So I am disappointed we never got that match. But of the two, if you were to ask me, if we didn't get WrestleMania 36, if you were to ask me what match would I rather see, Bryan and Taker or AJ and Taker? AJ and Taker any day of the week. Bryan's great, but AJ is an equally, as just as much of a miracle worker, to a certain extent, as Bryan is. And I just feel like the story made more sense with AJ and Taker than it would have with Bryan and Taker. Let's see. At E13A from Twitter, as we wind down here. Did you ever hear about Tony Khan declaring that Hulk Hogan and his ex-wife Linda Hogan are banned from AEW? To tell the truth, I've debated ever asking about it, but given recent events regarding Jimmy Havoc and Sammy Guevara, I thought now would be a relevant time as any to mention it. Yeah, I did read about that because I saw it actually on my birthday, back on June 2nd. I was like scrolling through Twitter at dinner or something, and I saw the headline about Tony Khan banning Hulk and Linda from his events. Listen, the guy owns the company. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, I remember Cody Rhodes, I think, banned Vince Russo from StarCast a couple of years ago. Has Vince Russo ever been accused of, I think he actually has, of sexual harassment to like a major degree? I don't think so. He's just annoying and his ideas are terrible, in my opinion, for the most part. I'm just not a Vince Russo guy. But hey, listen, he ran the convention. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. If he doesn't like Vince Russo, he has a personal vendetta against him, he can ban that guy all he fucking wants. It's his show. Tony Khan is no different. In my opinion, should Hulk have been banned? Obviously, you would never see Hulk at an AEW show anyway, unless they offered him the money to come on in. To say that he was banned is dumb to me. What he said was a long time ago. People still haven't forgiven him. People are still offended by it, and I totally get it. I understand it. That's fine. I mean, again, he's apologized. The issue is that I don't really think it was a genuine apology. And Hulk is just, it's Hulk Hogan. I'm not going to, say that it's all right because that's who he is, but if they want to ban him, whatever. That's his personal opinion. Linda Hogan, I can more agree with. Hulk is one thing. Linda, I completely agree with. That woman, by all accounts, is a vile piece of shit. And based off what she put out on Twitter, which I will not repeat here, around the time that Tony said that, was, again, disgusting. She's in the same boat as like a Sunny, as being a racist piece of shit. So I'm glad that they banned her. Not that she would ever be at an AEW show anyway. I'm not even sure she knows what that is. I'm not even sure Hulk Hogan knows what the fucking AEW is. But it was a nice gesture nonetheless. So again, like you said, it's a bit relevant for Tony Khan to say, oh yeah, you're both banned, and then to just, suspend Jimmy and Sammy. It's like, oh, okay, what Hulk said was terrible and we'll ban him. But what Sammy said, it's bad, but we'll just suspend him. He's not banned. So I can kind of see the double standards there. I can totally understand that. I wouldn't ban Sammy, but I also wouldn't ban Hulk Hogan either. What Linda said, she's a piece of shit. She is a genuine, certified piece of shit. What she said was literally like a year ago. Hulk was a long time ago. He apologized. I don't think he's racist. That's a different discussion for a different day. People want to hate him. That's completely okay. It affects different people differently. And if they want to ban him, that's okay. Linda should be banned, but I could see the double standards of the whole Havoc and Guevara thing is what they did, where it was kind of disgusting as well. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars number 36 from last week. The best of NXT, I thought it was a very good show overall, actually. I thought the opener between Imperium and Breezango for the tag titles was very good. The women's tag team title match in the main event, Bayley and Banks versus Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart, very good main event. I almost said Eric Escobar. The Santos Escobar segment with Drake Maverick and him getting attacked by the heel trio was great. Really digging the Escobar stuff. The NXT Championship picture growing was a lot of fun as well. We're seeing that triple threat tonight for the NXT North American Championship, so I'm looking forward to that. And then from Dynamite, I like the Cody and Ricky Starks match. Very happy to see they signed Ricky Starks. The guy's awesome. And the main event was good too. Best Friends versus Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Overall, though, I did not think Dynamite was a great show. It was all right. But the worst of both shows largely comes from Dynamite. I thought the MJF Billy match was way too long. It should not take MJF fucking 10 minutes to be a 56-year-old Billy Gunn. That's just crazy to me. The Young Bucks and Superbad Squad match was way too long. It was decent, but the match was just way too long. And then the Omega and Page match, the Kenny Omega and Adam Page match versus the Natural Nightmares was all right, but it was nowhere near as being on the level of like any other Omega Page match I've seen in the last 6 months. And then from NXT, the Xia Li match fucking sucked. I don't give a shit about Aaliyah. The puking thing was even worse. Just throw that trash right in the garbage. Then at Misdemeanor 6, the final question of the day, speaking of Best Friends from earlier. Can you see Best Friends getting a tag team championship run? I would love to see it happen. Trent, for me, has always been very much underrated compared to the big names as a wrestler. And Chucky T is good in the ring, too. Orange Cassidy is also good in the ring and has a good, simple gimmick. So, I mean, I wouldn't include Orange Cassidy in that, because if Best Friends became the champions, Orange Cassidy wouldn't be a tag team champion. Orange Cassidy is cool because he's doing his own thing, but he's still associated with the Best Friends, which I like. Kind of like SCU and Scorpio Sky kind of doing his own thing, but still being a part of SCU, you know? So Best Friends, yeah, honestly, I wouldn't mind it. I really don't. I know RJ and I talked about this. I don't think he was too fond of the idea. But if it's not them, I'm really not sure what would be the right team to take the belts off of Omega and Page before they likely feud with each other. It's either FTR or Santana and Ortiz. Honestly, though, they have done a much better job of building up the Best Friends than they have Santana and Ortiz, who have only really beaten jobber teams on fucking Dark. Who cares? They're like the next Natural Nightmares. FTR need a few more wins for them to really be considered like tag team title contenders. Honestly, I wouldn't mind it, though. If they beat Omega and Page at Fyter Fest, which I think there's a good chance they could and will, then yeah, I wouldn't hate that at all. Best Friends are very good. Chucky T and Trent are very good in the ring. I would say that they're over. It doesn't really matter right now because there's no fans. But they are over. They're entertaining. Yeah, so I would not be opposed to that at all. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's edition of hashtag AskGSM episode 343 for June 24th, 2020. Hope you guys are enjoying your week and enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. leave the question you want to ask on the comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video, and I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition, even though I might forget because YouTube doesn't notify me of the fucking notifications, which is really annoying. So other than that, guys, have an awesome one. Be sure to check out all the other hashtag AskGSM videos. In the description box down below, there's a link to the playlist of all the other hashtag AskGSM videos. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I got to go run off and do some other stuff before NXT and Dynamite tonight. Hopefully this is up well before then, but I mean, you guys would know better than I do, but the issue is that YouTube sometimes takes a long time to process the videos. It's really annoying, but that's just what it is. So hopefully we can get this up as soon as possible. And one final time, check out my exclusive interview right now. Just got confirmation with Damian Priest from WWE NXT taking on Cameron Grimes tonight on the show. Check out that exclusive interview right now on dailyddt.com. We're talking the origin of his Archer of Infamy nickname, idolizing The Undertaker, his favorite opponents, facing Finn Balor, a takeover in your house, kind of feeling comfortable in his own skin lately, and so much more. So check it out right now on dailyddt.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Have a great one, and I'll catch your ass down the road.